Hi, Stephen. Thanks for joining me on the Serenade Files. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Cool. And whereabouts are we chatting to you from?
I am in Melbourne, Victoria. Um, I'm originally from Sydney, so it's every time I have to think about where I actually am. But yeah, I'm in Melbourne.
So, ever the traveling performer, I guess.
Yeah, I'm definitely a Sydney boy through and through, but just traveling with different shows or doing corporate gigs, it sort of has brought me down to Melbourne. And yeah, it's kind of it's really different. There's a different vibe down here, but definitely traveling around and yeah, home is just I guess where you lay your head.
Of course, yeah. So, tell us more about your traveling and your performing. What part of the industry are you mainly involved in?
Predominantly, I've been doing musicals for about 14 years. Um, yeah, I graduated from WAPA in 2006 and then got into touring with shows in Miss Saigon with you, which was incredible. And that was sort of, yeah, the launch pad of my career, really. I was talking to a friend the other day and it was interesting how some people either wait for a show to come along or certain events happen. And I was so fortunate to be able to go on as Chris. And if I didn't get that opportunity, it'll be really interesting to see where I would be now.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so it's musicals and hence the sort of traveling. I mean, as you know, with that particular show, it's 14 months. It's on the road. It's different states. You pick up your two suitcases and you're on the road.
Yeah, if that. And so, I'm taking it that you were working on some projects before COVID-19 restrictions kicked in. Tell us about what you had just finished or were halfway through, however it was, before all this happened.
Yeah, I was doing a play with a company called Q44 Theatre Company, and we were doing a new Australian play at the convent in Abbotsford here in Melbourne. We'd rehearsed, we got to opening night, we'd done the first weekend, and then they were like, right, we could keep going because went down to 500, and it was only a 60-seat theatre, so
Yeah.
that was happening. But it was so strange because you could just see that tension of people going, oh, ticket sales stopped.
Mm.
There was no real urgency to go out, and we weren't sure whether people were going to come anyway. So it wasn't heartbreaking, but it was certainly disappointing because you kind of go, we've worked for 3 months. It was a split period of rehearsal, so we'd rehearse, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and it wasn't full time. And when you're doing that, you really, you're trying to balance life outside of the theatre and as well. And so that was in itself, I think, what was so hard that you went, no, we've done so many
Mm.
hours and not regular hours. Yeah, and because it was a new piece, we just hit our mark where we're like, oh, we found it. We found the piece. We found what the show is. And luckily, I took my camera in and I could record it. So we have an archival, and this is before COVID hit. So we actually have an archival of the show, which is amazing. So if we can get it up and running at the end of the year, next year, it will be amazing to do again. And I think I have that hope that there wasn't, well, from my point of view, I would love to go back to that just to be able to go, yes, we finished it. We completed what that season was.
Of course. Yeah, I completely sympathize with that. When something just starts cooking and in the creative process in the rehearsal room and you're trying to find it and then you finally gel and you're about to
Yeah.
open or you're early in the season and you're excited to share it with an audience, that feeling of having the rug pulled out from underneath all of us when all our gigs got cancelled this year, there's no real word for it. It's a mixed sense of emotions. And I'm taking it you want to, like you said, you want to go back to that and hopefully can pick up. But I guess the nature of your work being a contract performer in theatres, moving from show to show, it's not that easy, is it?
No, I mean, I don't think the industry is not easy, really, is it?
No.
I think we are kind of built in a sense that we're used to this, like you're in and out of work all the time. And sometimes, yeah, if you're lucky enough, you've got back-to-back gigs. You've got a couple of weeks in between contracts, but you sort of find that a lot of the big commercial musicals will happen and, you'll do 14 months. And if you're lucky to get that next one, great. But if not, you might have to wait another 14 months or another, 2 years before you get onto a bigger show. So
Mm.
I love a good hustle and I love keeping busy and doing all those things. And so this is yeah, like I said, it's not heartbreaking because I've really found something that I've gone, oh, okay, I needed to stop. I needed to reassess. I needed to understand what was happening. Um, and that I've got to figure out what I want now.
Mm.
And I think I was finding that at the beginning of this year. I was really hitting my marks. And so it's just reminded me what I need to hone in on. And if things aren't going to happen like with big commercial musicals for a year, I guess what do I do? Like, do I concentrate on something else?
Mm.
Do I just keep going with my skills, like singing lessons, doing some dancing, or just getting the body moving in a different way? So it's really, yeah, it's been really an interesting kind of time to go, oh, okay, how do I massage that to make it work for me?
Yeah, and you've done that recently in a very creative way. You've started a YouTube series and spoken to a lot of great personalities from the industry to get their insights. Tell me about the inspiration behind your YouTube series, that show.
Yeah, it first started, it was the self-tape edition because a lot of people in music theatre don't often have to do a self-tape. You go into the room and you audition, you meet people, there's different rounds. But over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, I've been hearing first rounds initially are self-taped. I love the opportunity to self-tape, and it is exciting because you get to give it a go. You're in your own space, and you can draw on different people to help you out, like a great reader, or you just sort of have the time. But it still doesn't necessarily come across as what it would like in the room.
Yeah.
And I think and so I was asking different people what their motivation is when they do it, or why do they balk at it. So that was initially why the series started, just to ask a question and ask a bunch of professionals what they're doing. And now it's kind of just snowballed. I thought, oh, I'll ask another question and I'll ask another question. And then I went, hang on, everyone's at home. I want to talk to people, and I want to kind of get to know them, or I want to know a bit more about that world. And keeping it within the performing arts industry, it's kind of a wide scope, but just to get more info, and it's kind of in a selfish way, but I've also, other people are getting the benefits from it. I spoke to a girl called Anusha, and she is a sound engineer, and it's gone to like Glasgow. She's doing another speech now, an information sort of talk for other people on Zoom. And that was not at all what I thought would happen, but how great that other people are watching it and going, oh, now I get to go and have a chat with someone. And she said, oh, maybe I should make a video. I'm like, absolutely, you should make a video. Because I mean, like yourself, like how it's time consuming, but how easy. Like I'm sitting in my lounge room.
Yep, in my studio.
So, yeah. I love a chat. Yeah, people call me a hack. I have a chat. So I'm like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you had the time to chat with me about this as well. So many questions to ask you, and just get behind them. I love this story. I love that you've opened up something that's become a domino effect. And it all started with one question, just like you say. And every time we explore art in the room, when we take on a character, it always just starts with one question, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's snowballing. It's interesting. Who wants to have a chat? And some people are not ready. They're like, oh, I don't do the camera thing. I'm like, totally fine. Like that's what I'm doing at the moment. I've thought about doing a podcast, but my knowledge of having to get the audio track onto podcasts I'm not there yet.
Sure.
So I'll just if anyone wants to be on video, I'll have a chat with them.
And this suits you, actually, Stephen. I mean, you've got some background in screen anyway, haven't you? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've done guest roles on various television shows. I've done a whole bunch of TVCs, television commercials, which is awesome. And I remember coming out of uni going, oh, okay, I'd love to get a TVC. Everyone does. I mean, they pay amazing money, and it's really good to get out there. But for 10 years, I didn't book one. And I was like, what's wrong with me? What am I doing? And I'd go to courses, or I'd think, and it's like, I don't know. So I guess my background in TV is, that's what it is there. That is my focus of becoming more time in front of the camera. And I guess this, you get what you ask for. I'm putting myself in front of the camera.
Yes.
I guess, not a lot of people, but some people in the industry would like to cross over and be in front of the camera, tell a story in a different medium. And I haven't had the chance to be able to do that in a contract. And that excites me because I don't know it.
Yeah.
And it's it's such a different forum. Going to set every day, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be on set. Being in a musical, it's like 5 o'clock. What?
Yeah.
It's foreign hours. It's like, oh my
Nothing
boy,
before 11 a.m., please. Yes.
at all. um,
Yes,
yeah,
it's a
so
different
I'm
world.
interested to do a bit more. Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Oh, we hope you do a bit more. I'm enjoying your show on YouTube. I love following your adventures online. And you hit a nerve earlier when you said, "What's wrong with me?" I think that's a question that a lot of performers, for some reason, seem to ask themselves. And there's this illusion from the audience perspective, if you're not in the performing arts, that those people have it all together. They're so confident. They're up there on stage. They know everything they need to know about where they're going and what they're doing, and they know who they are. But that's not always the truth, is it?
No, not at all. um, I'll speak for myself. I'm a very fragile character. A lot of people say, yeah, you're so confident, you're positive, and yes, I am. But I certainly have my time. But it has taken me a long time to admit that. I think, as those 10 years where I was like, what's me, like, and I think that's the indicator. Like, I'm too worried. Like, me is just like, okay, we'll take the attention off yourself for a second. Stop worrying about what other people think, and love yourself. And that took years to understand. I wish, I could go back and say to my 21-year-old self, or to my 13-year-old self, or 8-year-old self, is self-love. And then other people can love you. And then you can, that mutual respect for other people, because you lead with love. Yeah. And I think once I sort of flicked that switch and was like, oh, yeah, that's going to emanate from me. I'm going to go into an audition and people are going to go, that's the guy. He's excited. He's loving. He's approachable. And before, I was just sort of like, I was nervous and I was stuck. I was like, oh, just be right. And it's like, that's not fun.
Yeah.
And mental health. I mean, I've had bouts of depression or anxiety, but not debilitating. I've always been able to get up in the morning, do something. But I guess I always, as a man, I was taught that we don't cry. We don't do these, it's be strong. And what I love now is that we're all in touch with our emotions, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to be unsure, of what those feelings are. I grew up with sisters, and we're all emotional in a certain way, but because I was the boy, it's like, come on, pull your socks up and get on with it. Where the girls are a bit more nurtured and understood because they have those emotions. And so what I love now is that I'm finding a balance of how I lead, is that I'll wear my heart on my sleeve, and people know that. Like, you would know that. We have a chat and it's like, yeah, I'll be honest and raw. I hate going into a room full of people and going, oh, okay, there's so many people here. How do I, and you kind of have to adjust to that. And I thought I was the only person. And as soon as I admitted that to someone, they're like, oh no, God, I hate it. You don't know where to look. You don't know what to do. You go, oh, I'll grab an alcoholic drink and I'll get drunk and yeah, everything's fine. It's like, well, is it that? All that anxiety for nothing.
Yeah. Look, there's so many other questions spawning from what you're bringing up, and it's great because there is this misconception, like I said earlier, that we have it all together, anyone who practices art. But the beautiful thing about art is that it lets us explore these elements of our humanity and unravel things and make sense of the stereotypes and the cliches, like you said, being a man and what that means in society, or what people think it should mean. I mean, we touch on that every day through our music theatre, through our songs, through people who write. And what I'm getting at is art in our society, in Australian culture, tends to be undervalued. For example, recently you took part in an MEAA campaign advocating for more recognition and support for the arts. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people have fallen through the cracks in our industry. Like, what do you think needs to be done more to help support us in the nature of our work?
Oh, it's a good question.
I know it's a bit loaded, but
no, I mean, I guess the campaigns that have been following, it's something that I didn't even have enough information for myself, and that's why I've always been a union member. I have been skeptical about it because I thought, what does the union do for people, and why are they there? They're kind of just banging on about like the rights for people, this is a very big picture, and everybody can see it now, is that an industry that earns, or, I'm trying to articulate what I'm trying to say. The amount of money that the industry makes for a nation is incredible. To think that a government that is in power right now doesn't turn to us and say, you know what, we understand where you guys are at. We understand, your different scenarios. We understand that it's so different. I mean, the arts has been here for so many years, and it's not like a new thing to go, oh, so you guys are only like contract to contract, and some of you are only part-time, and you've only worked 3 months this year, but then you've done other jobs. Like, that's what the industry is.
Yeah.
So to see a whole bunch of money thrown at other sectors and industries, you kind of go, mate, what are you doing? Like, and then a minister who is supportive of the arts is supposed to lead for the arts. This is our, we're supposed to go, you're our minister. You've got our backs. To find out that he didn't even vote for us and didn't even lead.
A punch in the guts for a lot of us. Yes.
Yeah. It's just, to probably break it down to simplicity, it's just to have that acknowledgement that we are a really strong industry and that we deserve to be noticed, that we deserve to be taken care of. Not everyone, not every single person that is like, oh, I'm an artist, so I should have, job keeper. Sure. Like, there is specific things that criteria that have to go through. I understand that. But when there is a problem, when the money needs to be raised, we are the industry that turn around and create hundreds of millions of dollars for everybody.
Yeah, just rewind to January, and we saw that in action with the bushfire relief.
The bushfires. Everybody is turning on the television. Everybody is reading a book. Everybody is seeking entertainment, is seeking some kind of art form. And I guess it's funny when we see surveys, when people go, what's art? And they think it's painters. And you're like, oh, okay, sure. So what do you think a singer is? Oh, they're singers. Oh, so it's not an artist. So it's education. We have to go back to understand. So people a lot of the time don't think the arts is a widespread, that goes over so many different, there's the musicians, there's backstage crew, there's film crew, there's stunties. I'm a part of the Equity Foundation. We have this group that we meet once a week or once a fortnight. And there are so many people on there, even education for me to go, oh, that's right. Like, gosh, this spreads out so far and wide. And we're seeing, the criteria of how many things should be made in Australia now. Like, it's just wiped off the table. So we'll get content from overseas.
Yeah.
So they've just gone, we don't need that. You're like, what? If in any industry, shouldn't we all be turning in to go Australian made?
Yes.
Shouldn't we get things that we've got a country, the borders are locked. Let's create things here. And this is for every industry. I want to pick up a can of food and know that it's coming from North Queensland, or I want to know that it's being bred in beautiful Western Australia, where all these things, we've got all the resources and we sell it out to so many different people. Yes, that's how we make money. And I understand there's different variables, but let's turn to Australia and say, right, what have we got? What can we do for our country? And the arts are doing, just look at the amount of productions that are coming that are Australian made, Australian actors. One that I just watched was Stateless.
Yeah. So good. So good.
These incredible actors that have been overseas and they've come back and they made this series, and you're like, that is such an important message for the world to understand, immigration, how people are getting treated, how Australians are dealing with it. It's so far removed from us in the cities, in the main cities. I didn't know half of that stuff was going on because I'm blind. I've got my blinkers on, and there's so many different things. I'm like, oh, yes, the government aren't doing it properly, but I don't even pay enough attention to that. So it's a lesson, and we're doing these lessons through, I'll say it, art.
Yes, of course. It teaches us so much, doesn't it? It teaches us about perspective and empathy, more importantly. Yet, like you said, we need more support. And it's a great thing that you touched on there. It's more about education, acknowledgement of us as an industry, actual jobs, workers in an industry, instead of just people who are hobbyists and artists who
Yeah,
just flourish, and people who don't understand that. And likewise, the industries we don't understand, like you brought up as well, it's an exchange. And you're saying
yeah,
that we need to cultivate more information and education before we can be appreciated at a deeper level. And I understand that we shouldn't have to go that far, but that could be said for a lot of sectors if we step outside of our own.
yeah.
So, so many people inspire you lately. You were talking about, you were brought up, you were in was it an association that talks about uh, the industry and people getting together. And I'm sure through that, you've found other areas of the arts you weren't aware of. So,
Yeah.
who are three people in the performing arts that you could name that inspire you?
Oh, this it's so hard to narrow it down to just. I mean, are we talking about like specific companies or
Anyone performing arts, just artists,
anyone
anyone
performing
that kind
arts?
of makes you want to get up and create.
Yeah, look, I am. I've got so many great, wonderful friends within this industry that I've met along the way. Um, Being in a big commercial musical is fantastic, and I've loved every part of that. And so I have to pay homage to those people, producers that have provided work for me and given me those opportunities. But when I'm not in work and I'm doing these sort of hustling jobs, it is so inspiring to see someone like Q44 Theatre Company, producing these plays that really it stemmed from doing the working class and then getting out there and doing plays. Um, I did Grease with Rob Mills,
Mm-hmm.
and he is just a man that I'm like, dude, you are so grounded and understanding of what is the industry. He's a team player.
Mm-hmm.
He does inspire me. Like, the guy came from Australian Idol, performing in bands, and then got into a musical, and then presenting and Neighbours, and like that's where you want to go. He is a lovely guy. Like, people are like, oh, you just come from a reality show, and it's like, well, yeah, but you have to be talented. He does inspire me. Um, they're not in the industry, but my sisters inspire me to do this career. They honestly do. They are so encouraging and talented within their own right. But I do a lot of my stuff for them and my whole family. Like, they are supporters. Like, my mum came to see Jersey Boys over 100 times. And not kidding. Like, it was like 108 over
Number
3
one
years.
fan.
Oh, absolutely. Mum and dad came, and yeah, I did a cabaret show last year at Claire de Lune's salon in Oxford Street, Claire's Kitchen, and it was called A Time to Love.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I did it was for my family and for my sister and for people to stand up for their rights. I'm a huge feminist and wanted to learn about feminism and what that meant, because I'm a white privileged male going through this world going, I don't have to worry about things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess the women in this industry, and especially where it stems from, is definitely my family, my sisters.
Mm. I don't think that's incidental, is it? The people that we find ourselves in this life with, the people who inspire us. And I'm so glad that you stepped outside of the stereotypical who inspires you from the industry. Obviously, Rob Mills is a very great performer, and a lot of people look
Yeah.
up to him, especially his journey. It's easy to say someone came from reality TV and just dismiss that. But the independent companies like Q44, all the other people that contribute to the arts at a wider scope, but then you taking it back to the roots of where it all began. And for you, your family, your home, your heart, that's what your influence is, and that's really apparent in your work. So it's lovely to hear that it's deeper than just a job and the art for you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are wonderful actors that I look
Yeah.
up to, and I think they're great. You know, I yeah, there's so many different people we could talk about, and different sectors, but it is especially in this time, it's like I can't go home. The borders, well, I'm respecting that the borders are shut in a way. Like I don't need to get on a plane and see my family. It's not an essential thing to do. Of course, I'm believing to do it, but you know, they just like every time I speak to them, I'm like, "Are you okay? Are you ready? Like, are you ready to go back?" And you know, if you're not, that's okay too. Yeah, so they're a big driving force.
Yeah. I guess, look, I've been really moved by a lot of the things you've brought up, and it's lovely to connect to another creative person in isolation where we are. I guess in closing, I'd love to know what your words to someone who wants to enter the industry now, particularly
Mm,
people who are studying to enter the performing arts industry,
yeah.
in a time like this that's just happened where work is uncertain. What would you say to creatives that have both been affected by COVID-19 repercussions and those who are looking to enter the industry?
I think at any time, regardless whether you're in COVID-19 or entering, you know, going through this time to start a new career, like anything, it's going to take work and it's going to take persistence. It's going to take time. You know, the cliche, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Um, through my conversations with people, this is kind of the thing. Like, what are we doing? Like, what am I doing? What are other people doing? What's the expectation there? And nobody expects anybody to do anything. Like, you have to take this time that it is hard. It's so not common. We don't have any answers. There's scenario 1, 2, and 3. There are so many options online now to reach out to people. Like, we could just have a chat. Be a sponge. Be really inquisitive, and everyone's in the same boat. It's not just you going, "Oh my God, you know, this is my final year, and you know, my whole situation is ruined." It absolutely isn't, because if anything, when you're at uni, you don't have time. You don't have that moment to be like, okay, so I've got to go to class, I've got to do this, all right, this is due. So now it's like, just absolutely take a step back, keep learning. You know, get online and listen to those people that are doing Q&As on Insta Live. Listen to it, like if you can. I know I listened to an hour YouTube thing of Howard Fine being interviewed, and I just wrote down like all these light bulb moments came up. You know, ask your teacher a question. Sit down and say, hey, let's just have a powwow for like 15, 20 minutes. I've always wanted to ask you this, but it's sort of the moment is going so quickly. If you want to adapt to the new realm of the digital world and how things are now so digital because everyone wants content and want that access, maybe start thinking about creating stuff. You know, if you're not savvy about technology, just create a show at home. You know, that cabaret show that you go, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to do that. Write a show. Queenie van der Zandt's doing online teaching about how to do a cabaret show. I mean, you could type it into Google and there'll be 100 people, but there are certain things that will be able to go ahead. Right now, you could put a show online. You could get paid for it if you want to get paid for it. I think there's a tip jar by PayPal. I've seen it on a couple of people's clips. You can, you know, start being and use your initiative for that, and that's creating. And you're in your lounge room, and you kind of go, well, if I pretend the camera's not there, and I just hit record, and I just start jamming. If you're playing the guitar, I don't. That's a terrible guitar playing.
Well, at least are you right-handed? Because that was correct.
Correct, yeah. You know, something that I'm doing, like tomorrow night, I'm part of a song club for May with Vicky Jacobs. It's called Glee Club. And that is in the sense of just trying to rework my songbook. You know, I've had the same go-tos for such a long time that it's like, do you actually have a songbook? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, it's like, what music is coming out and I need to go to that, you know, and I'm panicking for that. So now, like, I put all my music into a big folder and I've got it there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot that I have, you know, I've learnt that song before, and revisit those wonderful things. So that's a really long-winded answer, but yeah, I don't think there is a right or wrong way right now, because if you can fail at home, taping a monologue, doing a scene, you know, that's okay. You don't have to post anything online. I've spoken to a couple of people and they're like, oh, I don't know whether I want to put myself out there. Well, don't. Like, you don't, we don't have to. We don't have to be creative. Like, you know, if there's something sparking joy for you somewhere else and you're like, oh, but I should be doing this, Go and do what makes you happy. And I think that in itself for your whole career is what, in essence, what we should be doing, sparking the joy for yourself, because happiness will come into your work. You'll be free. You won't be just sitting there going into an audition going, I need to get this. I need to get this. I'm a culprit of it. I do it. I've done it a lot. So, desperate for the gig. And the ones that I put the work in and kind of go, oh, you know what, take it or leave it. They're the ones that I get. The ones that I'm like, I want this, give it to me, don't get. So start having fun. I mean, I'm telling this to myself. I'm hearing myself going, yeah, have fun.
It's great. You'll watch this back and you'll hear your own pep talk.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and I guess you're probably saying when you're doing these interviews, you're kind of going, am I asking this for them or am I asking this for myself in a really positive way? But it's like, it just creates something and you go, oh, I've written down 10 questions here, but can I just ask about this, And people it really does snowball into some, wonderful light bulb moments.
And not enough for this, for the time we've got, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. It gets like that. You're kind of like, oh, let's talk about this. Let's talk about that.
And let's leave it within a 20-minute time frame. Yeah, never going to happen. But just to be polite to you and respect your time, I'm going to have to wrap it up, as much as there are so many more things I'd love to ask you, especially about what you've gone on and said. Just to finish off, first of all, thank you for sharing your insight. So much wisdom there and so genuine, which is what I love about you and what a lot of people love about you and your work. And it's so great to hear from someone so successful that is still very grounded and appreciative of everything that you've been given in this career and this life. So first of all, thank you for that.
Thank you.
The other thing is, just quickly tell us where we can find and follow your work online while you're doing all these things, including your YouTube show. Just tell us a little bit more about that before we wrap up.
Yeah, it's just my full name at Instagram, on Twitter or Facebook. Very happy to have a chat. And YouTube, I'm so new to it that I think it's just my name. You can Google Stephen Mahy and my YouTube channel comes up. I'm not necessarily saying I'm a YouTuber, but it's a platform to upload it. If anyone wants to, have a session or have a chat about something, I'm really open to having a chat with people. Let's just, we'll get a group Zoom together if you're kind of subscribers or people that you chat to. But yeah, it's Instagram. I'm not really a Twitter user. I don't think I'm that funny or clever, but yeah. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, Stephen Mahy at each one of those.
Wonderful. I'll put those links in the description for everyone as well. Look, Stephen, thank you so much for your time. And I wish you all the best in the time that you have at home before the world, I won't say goes back to normal, because it's going to be a very different world that we re-enter. I think people have had time to reflect and change the way that we do things, and hopefully for the better, fingers crossed. Just wish you all the best in the time that you have to yourself. And I guess in the wise words of one of our directors in the past, Lawrence Connor, just be was the motto he left with me. And I think that everything you've said kind of reiterates that. So just be.
Just be. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Stephen. Have a good day.